Hey everybody, welcome back to Stories for Bree. I am super excited about my guest today, fellow besties, Bookstagrammers, both Ashley and Kristina, who make up Melanated Pages. I'm so excited to have you both here. Please introduce yourself. Whoever wants to go first, feel free. But then also just tell us why y'all created Melanated Pages in the first place.
I'll go first. Thank you, Bree, for inviting us. Thank you for having us. Your content, your page, your podcast, everything is so dope. So I'm Kristina, one half of Melanated Pages. I live in Charlotte, and I've always just enjoyed reading ever since I was a little kid, but I kind of fell off with reading, and so I really just started trying to get back into reading for leisure about in 2020. So Ashley and I created this Bookstagram page and a book club, and here we are.
Yeah, and again, I'll just piggyback Kristina. Thanks, Bree, for having us on your podcast and just everything you're doing on your platform. I'm Ashley, the other half of Melanated Pages, and pretty much like Kristina said, I joined other book clubs before, but like we never read like Black authors, you know. So I was explaining it to Kristina. I was like, I'm just tired of being like the only brown face in like a book club. I was like, and we never get to read any of the books that I want to read, like that I pick. So I was like, we just need a space for us, and that just kind of helped. You know, us, we just joined together and collaborated and created Melanated Pages, the Bookstagram, and the book club. So that's pretty much it.
And I am so glad that you did. Because I agree with both of you. There are a lot of book clubs out there. I actually am a part of a book club that I kind of go to. I'm a part of two major book clubs that I interact in. One is Melissa Book Club Booze, and then the other one is Black Girl is Reads for Black Girl. Oh, listen, I didn't say the wrong name. I don't know, but I want to say the right name so people will know. So let me look it up real quick. Listen, I'm not far from technical difficulties here and flukes, but I do that. But I agree that we need to have spaces where we can enjoy and read and just enjoy ourselves and have a time. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that a lot of book clubs really think about that, because I understand that we, as I like to say, people of the global majority in the United States is not in them, is considered minorities, and traditional publishing and stuff has not always geared towards us, even though we are really well read, and I'm sure we spending buku money on these books, you know what I'm saying? And so they've never really geared book clubs or anything towards us. And I appreciate that you've created a space where Black authors get to shine, they get their just due. And I'm grateful that you both accepted my invite. I know it is, I understand it's called Brown Girls Book Club, by the way. I was gonna get it right. And so I really do appreciate that you all have accepted my invite, and that you did create Melanated Pages. I enjoy your content, I enjoy your page. And I was just talking to you, Ashley, before we started recording. I was like, y'all selling y'all gear? Because I mean, we like it. Y'all got to think about that, because Melanated Pages, I was like, oh, this is nice. It's clean cut. It's very minimalist, but it's just enough to where you like, oh, I want a couple of these pieces, in my closet. So consider that, get your money. Get your money. I'm all for Black women becoming entrepreneurs and getting their money. So y'all think about that.
Got it.
Think about it and make your little Etsy page or something, or if y'all want to just do little pre-orders, do something, but definitely get your money and get these dollars. Everybody else doing it, you might as well go ahead and get yours too. So I like to start off the podcast with icebreakers, and I'm going to ask both of you, and you can, well, like I said, whoever wants to go first, you can just throw it out there. But the first icebreaker is, because what was your favorite childhood book, if you can remember?
I was like really into like Nancy Drew back in the day, like the whole series. Like I don't know if anybody ever like really remembers Nancy Drew. I'm like, oh, like detective, like I'm nosy, so I was always in people's business. So like Nancy Drew is that girl today.
So for me, thinking back, I really like that Drama High series. Like, I for a good like drama that's not involving me. So I love like that Drama High series and Goosebumps, like when I was like elementary school, because I really like thrillers and like scary type of movies and shows and books. So I say Goosebumps and Drama High series.
Low key, Drama High slept on.
It is. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Slept on a little bit. So I do I remember those books and seeing them. I think they were various authors, but they definitely had their scent and they had their time in history that people was really reading them. And it was I feel like it's more YA fiction, so it did center on drama, but they had a limited capacity for drama. But low key, I feel like YA fiction, I slept on YA for a very long time. Like as I've gotten older, I started to read a lot of more YAs just so as a librarian, because I am a Black librarian, so that I can have more things to recommend. And I started reading YA and I was like, wait a minute. Why was I not reading this at the age that I should have been reading it? I think YA is on a whole nother level, because when I read Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson, I was like, wait, this is considered YA? Like I feel like I jumped straight to urban fiction. I think that was especially growing up in a predominantly Black community and going to a predominantly Black school. We was trading urban fiction books around like they was like we was on the yard. Like, we was trading around like carton cigarettes, like no low key. And I spent a lot of money on urban literature. So I've always been surrounded in many ways by Black authors. I think for me, it was because in school, we really didn't read a lot of literature by Black authors, or the books that we did read was things that was like always been read and circulated. And there's no offense to the Alice Walkers and the Toni Morrisons of the world, but it's like, can we have more people that are Black authors that have Black experiences that tell good stories? And don't get me wrong, because the Toni Morrisons, the Alice Walkers, the Nikki Giovannis have their place, and we appreciate them because they were telling our stories. But it was like they always picked The Bluest Eye. They always picked, Zora Neale Hurston. They always picked Their Eyes Are Watching God, and they always picked The Color Purple. And it's like, can we read something else? Why I gotta be centered around trauma though? Like there are other Black stories out here that you don't have to pick that center just on trauma. But that's my soapbox. I don't want to go too far down the lane. It'll be a whole nother conversation. But, the next icebreaker, and Ashley, feel free to go first. Do you have a library card, or do you use your library card?
I'm heavy on the library card. I should have pulled mine out. Like I still have mine from elementary, like when I was a kid, like back in the day, like, and it has like my handwriting on it, because like you had to be able to spell your first and last name to get a library card. Yeah. So I still have that one. I have the one here now in North Carolina. And the followers put me on Libby because I didn't know about Libby and I didn't know about Hoopla before. But then I have a family member that lives in Maryland, so I'm trying to get a library card up there so I can use the Libby app. And they was like, "Oh my God!" They was like, "No, you can't do that." I was like, "Oh dang!" So I'm trying to get library cards all over.
Well, a lot of libraries actually do allow you to have a library card if you live out of state. I know that New York Public Library does it. I know that St. Louis Public Library System does it as well. And I think somebody told me that California do it too. Now, some of those libraries, sometimes they want you to become like a friend of the library, where you might have to pay like $15 a year or something like that to keep your card. But you can get some cards, because look, I got library cards somewhere everywhere. I got a lot of them.
Collecting library cards so I can use Libby. I was like, I'm tired of spending all this money. I was like, I got to do something else.
I know that's right.
I need library card, y'all. Like I'm so lazy. Like going to the library is just, I'm just like, I don't want to do it. So Amazon is a click away, and I'm just like, Amazon, like put in my cart and just ship it to my house. So, but I definitely need to get a library card because I could save tons of money and support.
Girl, you spending that money anyway. You paying your taxes, so you spending money on the library. So you might as well go get you a card, and don't get it twisted. The library ain't just for reading books. It's for all kind of stuff. You get all types of resources. I am a library advocate, so I'm going to push you to get one. All right. So are you guys and Kristina, you can go first. Are you a digital or a pen and paper type girl? So if you writing something, if you journaling and stuff, do you prefer digital or pen and paper?
I definitely prefer pen and paper. Like for me, doing anything electronically, digitally, it's just not my thing. Like I much rather prefer like to handwrite things or just pen and paper, like even with books. Like I haven't really tried audiobooks, but I really like physical books. So I'm definitely more like a pen and paper type of girl.
How about you, Ashley? You pen and paper or digital?
I'm pen and paper just because, look, I'm not as tech savvy as I should be at my age. So I'm a pen and paper type of girl. I just downloaded the Storygraph app that I found out is a Black-owned app to keep track, kind of like Goodreads, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, was created by I don't know if it's a Black woman or a Black man or a Black couple, but I believe it's a Black-owned app, and I'm just now getting into it. But it's like I just feel like it's so hard for me to focus on, like when I'm typing stuff, because I'm on my phone and then you get text message, you get distracted. So like I'm just like, maybe I just need to stick to this pen and paper.
I just became I've always kind of low key been a digital girl when it comes to writing and writing down my thoughts and stuff like that. When it comes to reading though, I really just got into digital for within the last maybe 2 to 3 years. And that's because I was commuting a lot for work. And so now don't get it twisted. I'm gonna still have me a physical book somewhere on me, but I just really got into of course, because I live in the hood, it come all the noises. I just really got into ebooks and audiobooks, and I've been audiobook heavy for the last 2 years, and that's because I think it was just easier when I was working and I was doing a lot of stuff where I had to use my hands, but I still wanted to work or listen to stuff. And I didn't always want to listen to music, but I still wanted to like get back into the enjoyment of reading. So I started reading audiobooks because I used to be completely against audio. I used to be completely against ebooks because I'm like, I'm staring at computers all day. I don't want to be also reading that way, but I still love physical books surrounding me. So I have all of them. I have all types. But yeah, I agree with you. They all have their place, but for me, I think that's what helped me kind of get back into like reading more and being able to incorporate that thing that I really love back into my everyday life. Because I was I messed up and became an English major in undergrad. Sick of reading. I got so sick of reading. I got so sick of looking at books that I was just like, y'all, it took the fun out of reading because I was reading to do work. And so it took the fun out. And so it took me quite a few years to get back into reading for enjoyment. And now I'm in there. And I am an audiobook snob though. If the person reading the audiobook don't hook me within them first 10 minutes, cut this off. Cut this out. You this a mess. Shut up. Like you like the person narrating can definitely make or break the book for me. I do recommend though 2 audiobooks I highly recommend, even if you've already read the physical books, is Viola Davis, Finding Me, and Will Smith's book, Will. His audiobook is a whole experience. Like he deserve a reward, low key. He crafted and curated that book so well. It's very entertaining. So I do recommend that if you do decide to ever go into the audio world, those will be the 2 that I say might break you in some. So Kristina, who is your favorite author / writer, if you have one?
Oh man. I feel like every time I read a new book, I'm like, oh, I really love this author. Like, this is my favorite author now. So I guess I would say for now, I'm really enjoying Daniel Black. His books are just like doing it for me, like touching all the feels. So I say right now, he's like my favorite author at the moment.
Okay. How about you, Ashley?
I'm piggybacking off Kristina on that one. Like, I'm like, whatever book I'm reading, I'm like, oh, I got to read every book this author put out. And like Daniel Black he's the one right now. I read Don't Cry for Me, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I got to read something else that he has. And I just started Perfect Peace, and I'm just like, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, Daniel Black doing this to us. And I'm really into like urban fiction right now with Ashley Antoinette, the Ethics series and stuff. She got me in a little chokehold. I was like, oh my God. I said, I need to slow down.
It popped up on my feed so many times. I'm like, how many of y'all is reading this series? She got y'all stuck. You hear me?
She
Stuck.
got, look, her name Ashley too. So it's just like, we got this like some type of connection. Maybe, I don't know, but she got me in a chokehold right now.
It's the Ashleys for me.
It's the
Grew up in the 90s and watched Recess. Ashley A, Ashley B, Ashley C.
Yep.
Yes, I know Ashley Internet, and I have not read a lot of Ashley Internet's books. I think because doesn't she also have like a dual kind of like she writes sometimes with a partner?
Her, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and so I think I've read a couple of their like both of their authorships together. I have not read a lot of her books by herself. When it comes to urban fiction, I've always been heavy in Eric Jerome Dickey. And so, and you know, rest in peace. When he passed away, I was so sad. Like he was my favorite, he's my favorite author, period. But urban fiction wise, I feel like he writes books in a way I ain't never in my life had to read a book and also have to have a dictionary close by to be like, bro, what that mean? And so he has literally extended my vocabulary. I have learned like words in other languages that I would have never learned had I not read any of his books and stuff. And Daniel Black's book, Don't Cry for Me, is actually on my to be read. It's on my TBR. My heavy on, I have a really long TBR, but I'm trying to keep track. But he's on my TBR. I've been hearing good things about Don't Cry for Me. So speaking of, let's talk about, you said that you both created a book club called Melanated Pages. So for Melanated Pages, let's talk about that. You said that the reason why you thought Melanated Pages was something that needed to happen was because one, you were in a lot of book clubs and you weren't really getting a chance to read authors that look like you. And then two, you decided to come together because you both had like core interests and you wanted to kind of connect. So what book are you guys currently reading right now in book club? And why was it important for you to really create and curate a space where Black authors can be seen, heard, and celebrated? Let's go with Ashley first.
Yeah. Right now we're currently reading Yanika, Where Is Your Husband? I think that we honestly like, I don't know, I don't want to speak for Kristina, but I think like once we created the Bookstagram and we saw how many other Black authors were out there, it kind of just opened my eyes, at least I can say for me, to see that there are so many other Black authors on the diaspora, like writing romance, writing thrillers, writing mystery, like it's so many. And that was the thing with the book club. Like me and Kristina both work in healthcare, and I know we've talked about this before. Like sometimes we're like the only person of color in our field or on the unit or working that day, and you're just like, dang, like can we, like, I hate to say, like Jayne Allen's first book, like Black Girls Must Die, is also like, I'd be like, dang, I'm tired of having to carry this load of being the only person of color and taking care of and speaking up for the other people of color around us. Like, dang, like, you know, sometimes you just get tired. But it was very important, I guess, to me to like start reading more, because I'm like, I'll have coworkers recommend a book and I'm like, oh, okay. But it's by like a white author. And I'm just like, well, I'll read it. But I'm like, well, would you read this though? Like, this is by Jayne Allen. Oh, I don't think that's my cup of tea. And I'm just like, but why not? Like, you recommended a book to me by a white author. Why can't you read this book that I'm recommending to you by a Black author? Like, why can't it be vice versa? So I just really think that we wanted to create a space where we felt safe, where we didn't have to keep explaining stuff too. Like, if I told a coworker of mine that was white, I was like, Black Girls Must Die is also like, girl, you need to read that book. And she's gonna be like, well, why are Black girls dying exhausted? And I'm like, you don't, oh yeah, you're not gonna really understand my struggle, you know? But I don't know, Chrissy, do you have anything to add on to that? I don't know if I really covered the question fully.
I agree with everything Ashley said. Creating our book club to highlight Black authors, to have a space where we all can connect as Black women and just kind of be able to relate to each other and relate to the books in general. And on the flip side of that, it's good to have like a space where we can motivate each other to continue reading, to fall off with reading. The book club also like keeps me on track and focused and making sure that I'm actually like continuing to read throughout the year. So it's been a great thing so far.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Sorry, y'all. We had a few technical difficulties. She said it was storming. I am so sorry that it's storming and it's trying to jack you up. They're trying to be an enemy of progress. We ain't got time for that. But yeah, I completely
Right.
agree with both of you because, like I said at the beginning, completely necessary, absolutely necessary. And Ashley, what you said is very, very, very much so the truth. Like, honey, you can tell me about James Patterson. You can tell me about Colleen Hoover. No disrespect to none of them, but y'all want to talk. Let's talk about Janie Allen.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Tiffany D. Jackson. Let's talk about Angie Stone. You don't want to talk about that because you don't want to deal with some of the themes and the concepts and the struggles. And I feel like these books are books that open up conversations for us to have to talk about those difficult moments and stuff. But sometimes people don't want to do that. And that's okay. You choose what you choose, but just know that when you come with a book rec, I'm gonna have one too. And it ain't gonna be no white author. And you're gonna have to respect that. And either either you read it or you don't, but let's call it a book, you know what I'm saying? And so I do understand that. And speaking of Black Girls Must Be Exhausted, let's get right into it and let's talk about Black Girls Must Be Magic. So that's the second book. And spoiler alert for anybody who has not read Black Girls Must Be Magic, because we're gonna talk about it. So I am good, but I ain't that good. So I found some discussion questions that I thought was really great. And it was on readinggroupchoices.com. So shout out to them. And they had some really good discussion questions about the book. So I think I'm gonna pick a couple of them and we can just talk about our thoughts. But I guess overall, starting off, what were your thoughts about Black Girls Must Be Magic? Kristina, you can go first.
So in general, I feel like Black Girls Must Be Magic definitely touched on important topics that we all need to address. And I could relate to Tabby with a lot of things as far as especially the workplace issues she had, like being a woman of color, natural hair, in a field. And so, like I said, with my career, I can relate to that. Just in general, like the friendship struggles, family struggles. So I think there's a lot of things, and police brutality that was touched on too. So I think there were a lot of issues that we all could relate to. There were some parts in the book that I got a little frustrated with, especially with Mark. I was just not feeling him at all. So I'm kind of in the middle about it. Like I in a tight spot.
Listen, Mark can go in the trash can as far as I'm concerned. Like, throw him away. But I was so triggered by both of these books. I was like, Jayne, I don't appreciate this. I don't appreciate the unmitigated gall that you got to create these trash behind me in these stories. And it's just like, but it's so real. It's somebody's reality, and that people be going through that all the time. And I think it was triggering me because I'm like, this woman don't know me personally, but she in my business. And I don't appreciate you being in my business like this. You did not ask me if it was okay for you to write a book about me. Like, you didn't ask me, and I don't appreciate it. So I feel you on that. Mark's character, we gonna talk about him. We gonna talk about Mark. But Ashley, what was your overall thoughts of Black Girls Must Be Magic?
My overall thoughts, pretty much, like I said, I hate to say like I'm like piggybacking off percent, but pretty much the same. Like we both work in like predominantly, I hate to say white fields. And my hair is natural, so like every time I come with a new style, they're like, "Oh, did you grow your hair overnight?" And I'm like, "We both working here, sis. Like, this did not grow out of my scalp overnight. Like, don't do that." But but it's a struggle, and I really like that it was highlighted in the book because the Crown Act is something that's so important to young. Because when I grew up, and that's what we were discussing in our book club, when I grew up, my mom always felt like she had to perm my hair to keep it straight, and it wasn't until I was when I was like, "Well, Mom, like, why does my hair have to be straight?" She was like, "Well, you have to look professional." And I'm like, "Well, the hair that grows out of my head is like not professional." So it was like a teaching moment for both of us. And we both learned and we both grew to say like, like, this is my hair. Like, it grows out of my scalp like this. Like, if their hair grows out of their scalp straight, that's them. Mine is kinky, mine is curly, mine is wavy sometimes. Like, it should still be acceptable. So I did like that she highlighted that in the book.
Yeah.
I didn't really like Mark, but I did like the fact that she had a doula. That's something in like maternity care that's not really spoken on, especially for Black women. Like, Black women are dying at an all high rate during childbirth. And I was just like, oh, I kind of like that she highlighted that it's okay to have a doula and, utilize that resource, because a lot of Black women don't know that. So I like the points that she highlighted on throughout the series. Like I said, she could have did a little bit better with the men, but like you said, it's somebody's reality. So I can't really be mad at it on that part.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like there were a lot of things in Black Girls Must Be Magic that I was just like, this really was made for us, by us, like literally was FUBU. And I was just like, this was made with Black women in mind. Her core audience was strategic. She was very strategic about, my audience is Black women. I'm going to talk about Black women. I'm going to talk about the complexities that it is to be a Black woman. You mentioned the Crown Act. I've always thought that, that has always been my take on it. Like, what you talking about? My natural hair is not acceptable. Who I look like, who I am. And I've always been taught and been tried to be very confident in who I am as a person. And so when I go in any setting, I have always just tried to be myself. And I've never really conformed to those normatives, and I've never been trained to think that way. And it is like, but you do feel it, and it is some undoing sometimes that you have to do. And I do feel really sad for Black women who have grown up in a place where they feel like they have to be oppressed about the way that they look. My grandmother, I had the fortunate advantage of, although I grew up in a predominantly Black city, in the hood, I still had the advantage of being able to be around people from different backgrounds and cultures and things of that nature. And we were very candid about the conversations that we had. I have uncles who are white. I have uncles who are Native American. I have uncles who are Hispanic. I got all kind of aunties and uncles from all different types of ethnic groups and cultures, and they have never treated me differently because I was Black. I was a Black girl. And I remember when I made the decision to go natural, and my decision to go natural, or go back natural, I should say, was because every time I got a perm, it looked like a cat licked my head. And I was like, nah, this ain't that. I look crazy with my hair doing this. And my hair got healthier. It was thicker. My hair, those chemicals were really causing damage to my hair. And so when I decided to go natural, it was just a decision because it was a healthier state and condition that my hair was in. Like, my hair is, like I said, is much thicker now than what it looked, and it's not damaged. I barely put heat on my head. If I'm getting maybe a silk press, I get it maybe once a year, if that. So I barely even put heat. I air dry, all types of stuff. So when Tabby was going through this thing about her hair, I was like, part of me was infuriated. I was like, what you mean? Like, what do you mean that they don't like her appearance? And it's crazy because I do feel like Black women who are in entertainment positions go through that a lot. And so it's nuts and chaotic that we have to have things like legislation called the Crown Act for us to be accepted. But if that means that that's going to help make it be illegal for you to discriminate against me based off of what I look like, my appearance, then by all means, then put it on the books. And I'm glad that this is happening. I'm glad that there is a movement like that and that it's going on, because you're right. Even in the healthcare field for you all, I definitely do feel for you. And one thing that I can't stand, and it don't happen to me much, maybe because I look like don't play with me, is like the gravitation of don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch my head. You don't have to see with your hands. You can see with your eyes. And the whole concept of Black women having to teach, like, that is an assault to me. That's harassment. Don't touch me. Like, you don't have to put your hands on me to see. So have you all ever experienced that? Kristina, have you ever experienced someone saying, oh, your hair is pretty, and then you see like and you like, stop, back up, back up. Like, have you ever had to deal with that in the workplace?
I have not in the workplace. I get a lot of comments, like, especially having braids, my braids. I'm like, your braids are so long. Like, how long did that take? And, all the 50 million questions that they have. But luckily, no one has tried to touch my hair. I think I would flip. I would lose it. So.
Listen, I it's happened to me a couple times with Black people. I've had maybe twice in my life, and I'm like, this ain't no petting zoo. This right? Like, I am not an animal. Why are you petting me like that? But like, once again, I think I kind of steer away from that because people be like, she don't look like she play like that. But actually, how has that ever happened to you where somebody put their hands in your head?
It has a few times actually. But I was like, Lord, if I ain't had this mortgage, like something else. I was like, oh my God. Because I had like fake dreadlocks one time, and one lady just came up and like she did, like, it was a patient's family member, and I didn't know who she was. I was just standing at my computer doing my work, and she was like, oh my God. And like before I could, like, I snatched, and then I was like, oh, Ashley, you got a mortgage. Do not act up in here. Like take it down a notch. And I was like, yeah. She was like, is that your hair? I was like, some of it is. I was like, not all of it, but like, you don't have to. I was like, you're not really supposed to touch, try to educate a little bit in a nice way. Like, we don't really put our hands because, germs in the hospital.
My whole thing is like, what goes through your head?
Yes.
When you're considering touching another person without their consent, like, in what is playing in your mind that says, "Ooh, I have the right to put my hands in somebody's scalp." Like, baby, I could see you, touch my arm or something, but you're literally putting your hands, like, if you come in contact with my scalp, you could transfer. And that's not healthy. Like, what are you doing? Like, in what world does that make you feel empowered to do that? And I just was like, people don't know boundaries, baby. Mm-mm. And I don't blame you, sis, because that would have been probably the same thing. And I would have had to catch myself because I might have hit a Kristina. I might have cussed a little bit real quick before I would have been like, oh, dang, like, don't lose this job, girl. you need this. And it has happened. Like, I've had people say all kind of crazy stuff to me in public, and I just be like, I got too much to lose, Jesus. I got too much to lose. I can't go to jail today because if I had it, I will, Lord. I would, but I can't do it today. So I feel you. It's getting into some other conversations that have happened in this story. So I'm going to pull a couple things from this thing, and I thought this was a really good question, so I'm going to ask it. It says, in the beginning of Black Girls Must Be Magic, Tabby is grappling with her decision to become a single mother. Do you agree with her decision? Why or why not? So I'll answer. My first answer is, first off, hats off to every time I get a chance, I'm going to say hats off to all the single moms, because it is hard. Y'all really are magic, because how you even make the decision, and sometimes the decision is made for you, but how you manage to live life every day and take care of children and take care of other people outside yourself. God bless you. You are amazing. You really are a superhero, because it is a lot to take care of other people and be to do that. So yes, that is not an easy decision, and some people are better at it than others. And so I appreciate y'all. But I, based off of the history with her dealing with Mark in the first book and then kind of dealing with him in this second book, I personally agree with her decision of considering being a single mom. And first off, when you think about, once again, spoiler alerts, when you think about Black Girls Must Be Exhausted, she really didn't want him a part of the process really anyway. And it just kind of happened where she got caught up one night. We didn't all have these moments where we didn't got caught up, and she got caught up in the moment, and it just so happens that they ended up in that condition, and he ended up being her baby dad. Well, in this book, I think because she had sex with him, I think it was like because she had sex with him, her donor thing didn't work, and it canceled, his sperm canceled out that. And I was just like, the decision to become a single mom, I think was a good look for her. Honestly, I think Tabby had a lot of strenuous relationships when it came to men, and specifically that relationship with Mark. Mark was just big trash. Like, how you gonna decide that you all of a sudden you don't want to be with me, you don't want this, you don't want that, and then you try to dictate how she was going? And I'm like, nah, bro, that's not his word. That's not how his word. You don't. And now we in the situation of Roe v. Wade. It's like, you don't control her uterus. And so, and I'm just like, yeah, I think that it was good. And it was really frustrating to me when she made the decision to let him like be in her life in a different way. I'm like, it's cool. Y'all could have had like a nice, healthy co-parenting, but when you decided to try to give this Negro, I'm gonna say this Negro another chance after he has proven to you that he is unreliable, and you've given him another chance. And I was just like, no, Tabby, what you doing, girl? Don't. So what are y'all thoughts? Do you agree with her decision to be a single mom, and why or why not would you have even made that decision based off of just how trash Mark acted? And I'm sorry, he gonna be trash for me. He ain't getting the benefit of the doubt. So go ahead, Kristina, if you want to start it off, because I saw your movements, girl. I saw them.
I 100% agree with Tabby's decision to move forward with the IVF process and be a single mom. I was raised by a single mother. My dad was in my life, but my parents weren't married. So I had a great childhood. My mom did amazing as a single mother. So like you said, hats off to all the single mothers. So I'm glad that she went ahead and did that process and did it for herself, you know? And even like the book highlighting infertility or just fertility issues in general, I think that was a great topic to touch on, because that's not something that we really talk about, especially in the Black community. So just seeing that being brought up was important too. So I definitely was like so disappointed to find out that it was Mark's baby. Like, I didn't like that at all. I much would have rather the book take the trajectory where it was like a donor and we see like how she managed being a single mom in that way. Like, I feel like that would have been much more interesting, but the spiraling of it being Mark's baby, and then he's like wanting to do this rush proposal, just a whole bunch of BS. But overall, I agree with her decision. I just wish it would have turned out differently.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Ashley. Go ahead and get on in there.
Yeah, I agree. Like I like we all said, shout out to the single mothers. My mom was a single mother until I was out of middle school, until she met my stepfather. So, you know, hats off to all the strong women raising children with a partner or alone. I really commended her taking that journey to do that independently by herself, like to be faced with that infertility and that struggle, and then deciding like, I'm going to have to do this alone. Like, you know, we hear the adage, like, it takes a village to raise a child. And like, you know, her village was a little spread out, like, you know, a couple of hiccups here and there, but for her to really sit down and be like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. Like, hats off to her for like making that decision. As far as Mark, like coming in and out, I was like, please, like Bree said, like, leave that Negro alone. I was like, you as a strong, independent Black woman, you have a great career. You got a house, like you doing the thing, sis. Like, you don't need this man in your life. Like, now if you want to co-parent, that's one thing. Like, hey, he is your father. Like, he's gonna come pick you up. Like, y'all gonna go on dates. Y'all gonna do this, that, and the third. But as far as that rush proposal, trying to impress his mom, like, sis, I don't even know you. Like, there's no need for me to impress you. Like, it is what it is. Like, I'm having this baby. Like, it was either gonna be with a donor. It just happened to be with your son, and that's the situation. But like I said, I commend her trying to become a single parent and try to tackle through that journey alone, because it is a hard journey for anyone.
Yeah, all of that. Listen, and you mentioned something that, like you said, Kristina, we don't really talk about it a lot, and that's infertility in the Black community. Because I feel like there's this concept that, you know, and I think it goes back to slavery, and we all know why slavery went in chattel. It was really chattel slavery, where the masters were sleeping with their slaves and they was creating profit babies. And I think it goes back to that, in this concept that Black women are like workhorses and that we can just pop them out. And we have struggles too. And I think it's more frequent than we talk about. And I know I've been surrounded by quite a few women who have had infertility issues. And I have not had the opportunity to check if I do have that, if that's going to be a concern for me, but I think about it. And I have been in this position where Tabby was. That's why I said, who told Jayne to be in my business? Because I had considered IVF. Like I thought about, doing at some point, and I had never really desired to have kids, but over the course of the last couple of years, just based off of how the dating pool, I'm single, and how the dating pool has been filled with like brown pea, I was like, maybe I could make the decision to be a single mom. And then just thinking about that, and it was like, well, do I looking into or thinking about doing a sperm donor? And I was like, So when I was listening to the book and I was reading, I was like, yes, she's showing that she can be a successful Black woman. She can still have kids. She can make decisions. She can do this on her own. And this is great. And then it switched to this one coming back. And I was like, no, let's not do this. And so, but I think that is a strong area where I just hats off to women who think that they're broken. You're not broken. You're not broken because your body is not doing what you think naturally it should do. But I just trust and believe that if you're desiring to have a child, that in God's timing, what needs to be done will happen in the right time and in the right place, in the right situation for you, in whatever way it needs to happen, even if that means going through surrogacy or whatever it is you need to do to make sure it's going to happen for you. So stand strong. I stand with you. I try to pray every now and then about that, because that is people want kids, especially those women who really desire to have children. I think it's going to happen for you. So I'm going to just put that out there in the atmosphere. So there were some other themes in this book. Like she had, not only was she dealing with Trash Can Mark, she also had some issues with friendships and the relationships that she had in her connection with her friends. And I cannot think of their names right off the top of my head right now. But her friendships really took some hits. And I think people often say that the way that you can test relationships are already always tested at these certain points, when you have a wedding, when you having a baby. And then I think it was one other thing. And so I agree. That is when you know whether or not you got friends for real, because weddings are stressful and you be ready to rip somebody's head off. And then having a baby is 10 times as stressful because your hormones are all over the place. And then making that decision to just try to figure out your village. First off, I think that the issues that they had in their friendships was some miscommunication issues that they were having. Honestly, I think the one friend, she was dating a married man, and then you wanted, first off, honey, ain't in no way, shape, or form am I ever gonna agree with you messing up somebody else's household. And they, both of you all are married, so I know y'all ain't playing and going for it. I could tell. It's just like, ain't no way in the world I'm ever gonna agree with you for you to ever be dating a married man, and she wanted, and I think sometimes people think that in order for you to love them, you have to agree with everything that they do. And I personally don't think Tabby was judging her friend, but she was really telling her that she needed to be careful. What are you all's thoughts on the friendship dynamics in this book, with the relationships that were happening? Ultimately what happened with one of their names, Jaleesa. And ultimately what happened with one of the friends is that, tragedy brought them back together. But what are your thoughts actually on just the friendship dynamics that were happening throughout this book, really?
Yeah, I think, like you said, it was like miscommunication. I know the one friend had the husband that she found out he was already cheating, but she found out, I guess, again, that he was cheating. And then the other friend, you know, I feel like she was kind of judging her going back to her husband and stuff on the low a little bit. But then, sis, you out here doing the same thing. Like, you going with a married man, so who are you to pass judgment? I feel like there's a lot of judgment within their friend group. But I know, like, Tabitha was, like, the main friend that brought them two together. So that was kind of, like, iffy on them. As far as, like, their friendship towards Tabitha, I think they were supportive. I know the one friend, she said that she couldn't come to the baby shower because you know, she was struggling with the miscarriage. And like, I could see, like, yeah, I can understand like how that might be triggering. And at least you were honest with your friend, and like, that was like good communication. But then you had the other friend in the back, like, she should have been here. She should have been doing this. I'm here. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And I'm just like, sis, she pregnant. She don't need all that negative energy. Like, we got to be better. We got to do better, you know? So I think the friendships, they were just kind of a little complicated. Like you said, miscommunication, I feel like, everybody within the group, you know? But Tabitha was the main friend that was bringing the two together. So maybe that was like a little issue. They weren't individually friends on their own, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that. They definitely weren't. I think she was and my grandmother has always said, when you're in a triangle, that can always cause conflict because you're always having somebody pulling. Somebody's always gonna they're vying for your attention. And I've also had that situation, and I had to just draw a boundary because I was just like, that's your friend. We are connected because we're all. And then I think I remember telling people on a couple occasions, just because y'all are friends don't mean that we all have to be friends. And recognizing that, I think ultimately they did end up trying to come back together, and they did well. But there was a trying situation with them. So Kristina, what do you feel about their friendship dynamic? How do you feel in regards to how both of them, and I'm sorry, y'all, their names is escaping me. I believe, like I said, one of them, their names was Jaleesa. How do you feel in regards to them, how they supported Tabby, how they came together? And I think one of the bigger miscommunications was the fact that the one friend thought the other friend knew her business and thought Tabby was out here running that mouth in the streets, and all of that different stuff happened. And meanwhile, the girl had never said anything. She was literally the secret keeper of both of their secrets. She was holding, and the problem is because they weren't talking to each other and they weren't telling each other, because once again, it goes back to Tabby is actually both of their friends, and they just happened to come together because, you know, they was connected to her. So how do you feel about their dynamic, Kristina?
I definitely agree that, you know, they had a complicated friendship dynamic, and communication was a big issue with them. But I also think it kind of highlighted an important thing with like adult friendships, like y'all older, like y'all have our own issues. And so like, I think it was Layla, the one that was messing with the married guy, and she had the miscarriage and the suicide attempt and all that. So other friend, her husband was cheating on her, so she was going through her own thing. And it's like, as you get older, you know, we all go through things, and it can kind of, you know, get in the way of your friendship. And I think we have to have a little bit more grace for that too, because I'll be honest, like, I'm kind of bad with that. Like, if I'm going through something and my mood is just kind of not there, I probably won't reach out to my friends for like a long period of time. And they're like, girl, like, what's going on with you? And I'm like, I'm just going through it. Like, I can't talk. So I think it highlighted like mental health. And that was like an important aspect of how that like affects friendships, you know, especially in adulthood. But they definitely had like a lot of miscommunication, but yeah, it was kind of a mess.
It was a hot mess. And so it wasn't, her name is not Jaleesa. I don't know where Jaleesa came from. It's Layla and Alexis. It's the two. I should have never forgot those names because I know people with both those names, but it was Layla and Alexis. And I believe Alexis was the one that was the married woman that was being cheated on. And then Layla was the one that was cheating with a married man. And then she ended up having a miscarriage, and then she ended up going and having some mental health things. And you brought up a very important thing about how sometimes friendships change, or the friendship dynamics do change when you become an adult that has more things going on, very busy. I know for me, all my friendships have had to adjust in regards to lifestyle and stuff like that. And I feel secure now in the relationships and the friendships that I have, understanding like we may not talk every day. You know, you get used to when you're growing up, you get used to this dynamic of your friends are always people that you see constantly every day at school. That's how you're building and connecting. When you're in college, if you have good roommates, you make connections and stuff with them, and you meet friends at college. But then I feel like it's after college where you kind of have to fight really hard to build new connections, because that's when you out in the world for real, and you're not put in situations and places where you have to be around people. Like as adults, we can make the choice whether or not we want to be in your face or not. And so it is harder to kind of like create those communication dynamics. And I think for me now with my friendships, I got a schedule. We have to schedule time to be together, and that's different. Having a scheduled time to spend time is like, that's different, but that's the life that we live now. And then you come together, you have those moments, and then you go back to your respective corners. And that's kind of how friendship works in adult relationships. Because what I found, especially during the pandemic, it was just like, when we started to spend too much time together, you start seeing stuff that you're like, oh, why was I sticking around this long in the first place? And so it's like, let us separate and go back. Because listen, I'm starting to see some stuff about your personality and who you are as a person. And I'm like, why have I been around this whole time? So yeah, I completely agree with you that I think that if they would have been better communicators, or just setting those boundaries and understanding, like, just because y'all two are friends, that don't mean that we had to be necessarily close like that. And I think that also is what caused the conflict, because they always felt like, Layla always felt like, Tabby was taking this person's side. Alexis always felt like you always ganging up, but then Alexis also, she was married. And so then that's another dynamic and another boundary she had to create. And you mentioned that both of you all are married women. How has that changed your relationships with friendships and stuff? Because you do have another layer and a boundary that you have to create, because you have this dynamic with your marriage. And I mean, I know the Bible says, I don't know, if you guys are Christian, but I know the Bible says leave and cleave. And sometimes we don't realize that what leave and cleave mean until you start getting into this marriage, and you realize like, oh, you ain't supposed to be in my business like that. That's what that mean. And so how has that changed your relationships? Kristina, you can go first.
I would say, it definitely comes a point where you realize like, okay, well, I can't turn to my friends to tell them everything, because what happens in my marriage is between me and my husband. Even with family, like, you have to learn just to keep what issues you have going on just between you two. So that is hard to adjust to, because it's like, you want your friends' opinions. Like, you want them to say, well, girl, let me tell you what happened, and try to get their viewpoint to see if you're right or you're wrong. But you can't have all these opinions in your marriage. So definitely had to learn to keep my feelings to my husband, and we communicate that. If we need to talk to someone, we go to counseling, we pray about it, we do whatever. So I think just realizing that, you can't just go and run and talk to whoever, your friends, about what's going on all the time. So I had to adjust to since being married.
Yeah, I think for me, I think that adjustment starts even before the marriage, right? It starts when you kind of like get into the relationship and it starts to get serious, and you like, oh yeah, I shouldn't probably share everything with you, because I love you and you're my best friend, but I shouldn't probably share everything with you, because when he pissed me off, you gonna still be mad. Right. And now I have to figure out how to keep you from being mad and going off and telling my husband stuff that I done told you in confidence. I need you, sis, I need you shut up. Yeah, so I agree with you. So how about you, Ashley? How has that changed your relationship dynamics with your friends? And do they kind of like respect your boundaries, respect your marriage? Did you find your friends kind of separating themselves and moving out? Or did you kind of like just create a healthier boundary where you can balance those relationships?
I really think like in the beginning, like you said, like that's when you kind of see like who your true friends are. Like a lot of friends kind of like separated. And I said it could have been me, communication, I'll be completely honest, or it could have been they saw like, hey, she's in a new thing. She's with her fiance / soon to be husband now, like let me back up. So that was like a thing that I did see, like when me and my husband first really got serious about being together. I don't know if you heard Kristina earlier. I'm sorry, I call her Kristina earlier. That's how we actually met. My husband and her husband were college roommates and are good friends. So how we met and, you know, started hanging out and stuff. But like she said, creating that boundary, like that was a hard thing for me, because like I would go to my mom about a lot of stuff. And then I really had to learn, like Kristina said, like what goes on between you and your husband goes on between you and your husband. And like, you really can't have any outside opinions, because like you said, Brie, when you get mad, your mom was gonna be like, well, girl, you remember when he said this right here? And I'd be like, yeah, mama, he did say that. Oh, sorry, y'all, it's like thunder really bad at my house. Like, you remember what he said? And then like you just get like the anger just intensifies. So like you both said, like you just have to keep that boundary. Like it was a little bit hard because like I didn't go off to school, I didn't go off to college until like, so I didn't move out until I got married. And that was a hard of like really like leaving and cleaving, like leaving my mother's home, leaving my dad, leaving my sister, and becoming like my own independent woman. So that was something that I definitely had to learn when we first got married. And my husband was always like, yeah, you knew you and your mom was in a whole nother relationship. Like he still jokes that to this day. And I'm just like, whatever.
It's very true though. Like you
Yeah.
don't realize the emotional connections and that you have with people.
Yeah.
Or even some of it, in although we might have healthy relationships with those people, it's still somewhat dysfunctional because you are leaning, it's I guess they call it codependency. So you're leaning in a way that you don't recognize that's how you're leaning in until some outside person or an outside influence comes in and you like, oh wait, you trying to change me. And sometimes that don't work for people.
Yeah.
And so you have to really get to a place of maturity where you like, oh, but wait, my mama ain't gonna be able to keep me warm at night, you know. Okay. So I need to switch some stuff up if I want to keep this thing and keep it long term. It has been, and I want to keep, like I said, I want to keep you all too far past the hour. It's been a beautiful, beautiful conversation. And I'm so glad that the Wi-Fi, thank you, Jesus, that the Wi-Fi has cleared up so that we can have a good conversation. But I guess I have two more questions for you. The first question is, would you read this book again? And would you recommend it to someone? And then the next question is, why do you believe that overall stories like this are important? So the first question is, would you read it again and recommend it? And Ashley, you can answer that first, and then Kristina. And then the next question is, why do you believe this story is important?
Yeah, I think I would read actually the series again, just because like I know Kristina was saying earlier, like it highlighted a lot of important issues, and I definitely would recommend it, like infertility in the Black community, natural hair, determining like I want to be a single mother. You know, it has highlighted so many issues that I feel like us as Black women don't really talk about. So I really definitely would read it again, and I would recommend it. I would recommend, I would go ahead and tell them like, sis, the minute this book trash, but you do need to read this book.
How about you, Kristina? Would you read it again and recommend it? And then what do you believe, why you believe the story is important?
I would read it again. I'm hoping, and I believe it's going to be a third book.
It is. Mm-hmm.
So I read and see what happens next. So I would definitely read it again. I would definitely recommend it to everyone, all women, men. I would definitely recommend it. What was the other question?
Why do you believe the stories like this are important?
Okay, so like we talked about before, you know, it touches on a little bit of everything, as far as workplace discrimination, natural hair, difficult relationships, difficult friendship relationships. And like Tabby's kind of struggle with identity. Like I feel like she has some struggles with even self-identity with her being biracial. So I think that's an important topic too to touch on. So police brutality and everything that goes on with that too. So I think that it touched on a lot of social issues, a lot of personal issues that everyone can relate to.
Absolutely. And I definitely would recommend the series. I definitely think that it does highlight a lot of different things in the community. One thing that a powerful thing for me personally was to see in a story that a Black woman can have it all. She did not have to pick and choose what she decided to be happy in. She could be a mother. She could be a successful, high-powered businesswoman. She could be, very professional, and she could still sort of kind of have some, strains in some relationships, but have the potential of having a really good relationship. So I'm curious, and I know I said that was my last two questions. I lied. I'm curious what y'all predictions are for the third book. Do you think her and the good doctor gonna get together? That's my hope, is that she gonna leave Mark where he at and get with the good old doc. Because that's kind of where the story left us at. They left us in a situation. And I was like, wait a minute now. So what do you all think? You think they're gonna get together and she gonna be like, all right, we gonna co-parent and call it a day, or you think she gonna be silly and stay with Mark?
I don't know. I'm feeling like she might be kind of silly, man. I feel like she might be kind of silly and stick with Mark. I don't know.
Oh my God. I hope Tabby don't stick beside him. Please don't stick beside him.
I am rooting for Dr. Todd. I was hoping that they got together. Like, initially, I was just hoping she would leave Mark alone, get with Dr. Todd. I mean, he's a doctor. He sounds like he's a nice gentleman. Like, he sounds like a good guy. So I'm rooting for them two to connect in the next book. So
yeah, because I feel like Dr. Todd kind of like he dropped in and then he just disappeared. And then he just popped back up. I'm like, girl, what did you doing, Jayne? Give him a story. So I'm hoping that his story comes alive in the third book. Because that ending, like I said, that ending left open a lot of possibility. And they was heading to that hospital. And I was like, ooh wee. So yeah, that opened up a lot. So I agree with you. It's my hope. Lord, please don't let Tabby be silly. Please don't let her be silly. And let her go with Dr. Todd, and let her and Mark just figure out how to be good friends and how to raise a healthy and whole child. It's been great, ladies. And even through the thunderstorms, I appreciate y'all weathering the storm, literally weathering the storm to be here and to connect. And it has been awesome. Please tell everybody where they can find you. I know you both have a joint page, Melanated Pages, but if you want to recommend people following you on your personal pages, if you don't have to, but please tell them where they can find you. And I'm just gonna predict that there's gonna be some merch coming soon.
So definitely follow us on Instagram at melanated_pages. And we will definitely consider some merchandise in the future. We have t-shirts like what we have on now.
Yeah.
We have coffee mugs, so we'll have some things in the works.
Absolutely. Y'all gonna have to drop the merch. Everybody that reads this, that watches this, that listens to it, I want y'all put in the comments, drop the merch so we can definitely support them and we can encourage them to do it and take the leap. It has been fun. I'm going to thank you everybody for watching, and see you back here next week.